Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we are going on a truly cinematic journey, straight into the breathtaking landscapes of North. We're talking soaring high over the eastern Himalayas, diving deep into lush, ancient valleys, and exploring the incredibly rich, living heritage of Arunachal Pradesh. We're going to dive into three majestic locations that represent very different ways heritage can exist, and examine their potential future on the world stage.
You know, this quote right here, it hits the nail on the head. Over the next few minutes, we're going to explore a pristine mountain wilderness, a historic living fortress, and a beautifully harmonious agricultural landscape. All three are vastly different, but they share something deeply significant in common: the remarkable relationship between people, culture, and their environment.
Okay, before we get completely lost in these stunning locations, we absolutely need to nail down a crucial distinction. What does it actually mean to be on India's UNESCO tentative list? Well, being on this list means a site has immense potential for future nomination. But we must be absolutely clear on this. A tentative site is firmly not an inscribed UNESCO World Heritage Site yet. The descriptions and justifications we'll be looking at are part of the state party submission, not already established UNESCO findings. So how does a site actually make it? It's a pretty rigorous 5-step journey. You start on the tentative list, just as our 3 sites have. Then comes a formal nomination by the country, a strict evaluation by advisory bodies, and consideration by the World Heritage Committee. Only if all those requirements are met does it reach the final step, formal inscription. Only then can it truly be called a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
All right, let's dive into our first stop, Namdapha National Park, the mountain wilderness.
Submitted way back in 2006, this place sits right at the steep, mountainous trijunction of India, Myanmar, and China. And the sheer scale of this proposal, it's staggering. It encompasses Namdapha National Park, the Kamlong Wildlife Sanctuary, and the Jayarampur Forest Division. Crucially, it forms a massive transboundary ecological connection with forests over in Myanmar, making it one of Asia's absolute last truly remote wilderness areas. To put that scale into perspective, just look at this number: 4,571 meters. That is the towering height of Dafa Bum, which is the highest point mentioned in the submission. But here's the wild part. The landscape drops all the way down to just 200 meters above sea level. This massive altitudinal range across incredibly steep, difficult-to-access terrain is exactly what allows such diverse ecosystems to thrive completely undisturbed. So, Namdapha isn't just a forest. It's an unbroken, seemingly endless sanctuary for biological diversity. Picture the Noa Dihing River snaking through this steep terrain, fed by countless little streams and natural salt licks. Because the interior remains largely inaccessible to humans, it protects incredibly vital, completely undisturbed ecological processes, its nature completely left to its own devices. Moving on to our second site, the fortified village, a living fortress. We're journeying west now, climbing up to over 2,100 meters. We're trading raw wilderness for an absolute marvel of traditional Mampa architecture. This 3.2-acre fortified settlement is crowned by the Thembang Zong. It's constructed using traditional regional techniques that brilliantly combine stone masonry and wood, complete with 2 gates and these beautifully engraved mani or prayer walls. And talk about ancient. State submissions suggest that the Bang Zong was built before 1100 CE. That is a massively important piece of early Himalayan architecture right there, reflecting a really rich history of cultural interchange with Bhutan, Tibet, and indigenous Northeast India. But here's the coolest part. Thembang isn't some abandoned museum piece ruin. It is 100% a living settlement today. Property ownership is controlled by the local panchayat as a shared community asset. It's a place where Neolithic stone axes are literally found in the same lush forests that provide traditional ethnomedicine and even serve as a habitat for the elusive red panda. It's an incredible coexistence. Finally, our third destination, Zero, the Apatani cultural landscape, where human and nature live in harmony. For this one, we're descending into the gorgeous rolling hills of the Zero Valley Plateau, sitting at roughly 1,525 meters above sea level. The Apatani people here have engineered an absolute masterclass in adaptation. Using just 32 square kilometers of cultivable land within a much larger plateau, they've created a highly organized, sustainable upland ecosystem that easily compares to global marvels like the Ifugao rice terraces. It's literally a brilliant, self-sustaining cycle.
The surrounding forests protect the watersheds, which then feed traditional irrigation channels. This water sustains an integrated agricultural system where wet rice is grown in the valleys, fish are reared right there in the flooded fields, and millet is cultivated on the elevated buns. And the whole thing is guided by the voluntary management of the traditional village council, known as the bouillon. Of course, because this is a living, breathing landscape, deeply tied to sacred groves and traditional festivals like Maroon and Mayako, it does face modern threats. Population growth, the rise of satellite villages, and just general globalization challenge this delicate balance. Maintaining their traditional ecological knowledge and community-based resource management is more vital now than it has ever been.
Which brings us to Section 4, the 3 dimensions of heritage and their shared future.
When you lay it all out like this, you realize these sites shouldn't be competing or ranked against each other. They represent completely distinct but equally vital dimensions of heritage. Namdafa shows us the raw, untouched power of nature. Thembang reveals how ancient architecture can thrive within a living community. And Zero proves how traditional knowledge can sustainably shape an entire landscape for generations. But I do need to emphasize this one more time just so we're all on the exact same page. These majestic locations are still at the starting line of their UNESCO journey. They're on the tentative list. Their future inscription relies on a long, strict process of formal evaluation. But their presence on this list undeniably gives them a rightful and celebrated place in India's broader heritage story. So, I'm going to leave you with a thought to chew on. What really preserves a place in the end? Because ultimately, whether they receive that final UNESCO inscription or not, the future of these incredibly rich ecosystems and cultural marvels remains exactly where it has always been, firmly in the hands of the dedicated local communities who have conserved them for generations. Thank you so much for joining me on this. Keep exploring, and I'll catch you next time.